a notice of motion that I'd like to table for discussion. Once I've read the motion, I'll seek a motion to waive the procedural bylaw to consider and debate the motion, and I will ask the Deputy Mayor to take the chair of the meeting at that time. So if I could turn the chair now over to the Deputy, and I will read my motion, and then we can have some discussion around it. So the chair is yours, Madam Deputy Mayor. So I prepared the following motion regarding the OPP billing statement. Whereas the current police services within the town of Wasaga Beach, hereafter referred to as the town, are provided by the Ontario Provincial Police, hereafter referred to as the OPP. And whereas the town and the local OPP detachment have worked in a positive, collaborative, and effective manner for decades. And whereas historical increases in OPP annual billing statements have trended around 5%. And whereas the OPP submitted their 2025 annual billing statement to the town on October 4th, 2024, that identifies an approximate $1.3 million, 22.8% increase from 2024 to 2025. That will translate to an approximate 1.6% tax rate increase on top of what the town was contemplating for the residents of Wasaga Beach. And whereas the town was not consulted nor provided any advance notice from the Commissioner regarding the significant cost increase received for OPP services. And whereas the town cannot afford to absorb the unexpected and entirely preventable increases without causing undue financial strain on our taxpayer. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Wasaga Beach wishes to dispute the 2025 OPP annual billing statement, and further that the town requests that the 2025 OPP annual billing statement be reduced to an approximate 5% increase that is more manageable for the town and in line with historical trends. And further that any increase above 5% be absorbed by the province, as the additional costs are directly the result of collective bargaining that was within the control of the OPP and should have been known to be financially unsustainable for the municipalities now that need to pay this bill. And further that the town request that the County of Simcoe undertake a feasibility study for a county police force. And further that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Michael Kersner, Solicitor General, MPP Brian Saunderson, the County of Simcoe, and all 329 municipalities served by the OPP. Madam Chair, that is my motion, and I would ask that the rules of the procedural bylaw be waived to consider this motion in this meeting.
Thank you very much, Mayor Smith. Madam Clerk, I'll ask that you provide a motion to waive the rules, please.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Accordingly, I have provided the following to Council for consideration: that Council waive Section 6.11C of the Town's procedural bylaw to hear and consider the Mayor's notice of motion regarding Ontario Provincial Police 2025 annual billing statement at today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Everyone's heard the motion from the clerk. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Boulanger, Councillor DeLeo, all those in favor? And that carries unanimously. So you've heard the Mayor's motion about the OPP. Does anyone need it to be reread prior to the discussion? Okay, seeing none. The Mayor has moved that motion. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Ego? I'll turn the floor back to the Mayor to allow you to speak to your motion, please, and then we'll open it up to the floor for comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Chair. First I asked us to waive the procedural bylaw because I believe it is of the utmost importance that we get this dealt with and moved forward as quickly as possible. I want to be clear that this motion or any concerns that I have, or I believe this council has, with this 25% increase has absolutely nothing to do with the men and the women and the boots on the ground in our municipalities. Our officers and their sergeants, staff sergeants, and their detachment commanders are doing the very best that they can day in and day out to keep our community safe and crime-free. And we have the utmost respect for them and wish them nothing but safety and Godspeed as they do this job. because that job is not an easy job to do. So absolutely nothing to do with them. This has to do with, the next levels in the OPP, being able to plan ahead and to ensure that we have stability in policing across this province. And I'm sorry, I feel that is not happening. And I think the proof in that is this absolutely unexpected. And I can say unexpected because I've talked to many mayors, deputy mayors in the county of Simcoe with respect to this, and I don't think there is a single mayor or deputy mayor or council or staff member across the county of Simcoe, and I'm quite confident probably the province of Ontario, who isn't shocked by this, because it's about 25% on average right across the province. This is billions and billions of dollars. We're not talking about a few dollars here. And the amount of overtime that is included in this, don't hold me exactly to this number, but for Wasaga Beach alone, I think the overtime works out to somewhere around 2,000 hours. 2,000 hours, just for your information, is about the equivalent of 5 full-time police officers for a year in Wasaga Beach alone. Our good friends in Collingwood are facing a $2 million increase. We're at 1.3. Our friends in Midland are $1 million. These three communities alone, $5.3 million. Sorry, $4.3 million. We're not the crime mecca of Ontario. So, my feeling is that, and I hear this from officers, because I speak to officers all the time. I make a point when out and about to thank them for their service and what they do for us, and to speak to them about the job. And I hear countless times that they don't have enough officers. Well, if they're feeling that pressure, that they don't have enough officers, it's because there isn't enough officers. And we know for a fact that the OPP, through attrition and retirement, is short and is going to be continued to be short for quite some time unless we find a solution. I think as we look at this today, the amount of officers that are required, I don't know that they could possibly train enough officers in any short period of time to fill this backlog. The amount of officers that are off on leave for many different reasons. And so I would suspect that we have overtime created almost on a daily basis. And I can tell you that if I ran my business with that type of shortage, and I understand that it's not easy to attract people to work today, and I was having to pay this type of overtime, I'd be out of business. And it's very, very concerning, and it's not just about the 1.6% it's going to add to the 4% that we already have, and it will be a solid addition. I don't see any way that we are going to be able to absorb this, and many other communities, I think, face the same problem. I've talked to some mayors who are absolutely livid about this. I talked to a mayor, I won't mention any names, but the thought was the only way we can absorb this in our community is if we were to take another service that we offer that was equivalent, and that would be transit, and remove transit from our community. So this is not, 5%. We plan for that on a regular basis between 4 and 6, and it's a reasonable amount. With everything that goes on and the tough job that these officers do and the leave that they need and to take not only for their physical health but their mental health and so on and so forth, and vacations and holidays and family time, I get it. But this is outrageous, and my concern is, what if this happens again next year? And so I think there are better ways to manage this, and it's why I asked that we asked the county to do a feasibility study with respect to county-wide policing. There are many towns and cities that decided to get out of the policing business and go to the OPP because it was pitched that there would be a savings, millions of dollars. And I can tell you, in speaking to the mayors of many of these communities, in every instance, after the first 2 or 3 years, it's costing more. And that's very concerning. And so that's basically my comments. I urge council to support this and to move this forward. We need to find a better solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Great comments.
CAO.
Oh, sorry. I'll turn it to Andrew, please, our CAO first, and then open the two councillors for comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Echo here. I wanted to share with you, clearly there is a groundswell right across the province pertaining to this issue. There was a press release just issued by the Ministry of the Solicitor General. I'll read it for you. It's a bad echo. We understand that some municipalities face additional costs due to their existing agreements with the OPP. We will work with these municipalities to ensure that they are not negatively financially impacted by this. I don't know what that means. That one's better. I don't know what that means, but it seems to be an acknowledgement that their increase is out of line, and then they're hearing about it quite loudly. As a bit of information, there's an article about our neighbors, town of Collingwood, are facing a 36% increase. That will translate to a 7% tax increase for them on top of their bill. So while ours is significant, that is incredibly painful to be dealing with that. I believe this motion is incredibly prudent. I believe the statement about anything above historical trends should be absorbed by the province is a good position to be taking, particularly in light of this release from the Solicitor General. So I just wanted to share that as background.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. Open the floor. Councillor Boulanger first.
Yes, thank you through the chair. First of all, I want to reinforce what the mayor said about I feel very safe in our community. I think the OPP render a very good service effectively, I thought. I sort of wonder whether there needs to be another level of oversight, that we could find ourselves in a situation of a 23% increase in a single year. But one of the things that people don't think about, and the mayor touched on it, I was in an industry where employees were on flat rate. And if a manager had a technician that wanted to work on his own, to work extra hours and drive up his level of income in a year, we would have to go in, because effectively jobs have a value, and overtime can take a job quickly out of what that value is. And where that becomes a compound problem is that when we go to benefits being a percentage of income, and your income is being inflated because of overtime, your benefits become very difficult. When someone goes on vacation, their vacation pay not only becomes inflated, but then the cost to replace that person becomes more expensive, because you could get to a case where if someone had enough overtime, it's like 1.5 people leaving, and that cost just compounds into the system. And to the mayor's point, if you need more officers, and if you're spending 2,000 years in overtime, we could have avoided a lot of the cost by adding the officers when an officer needed to be added. I question, I guess, the management of that they allowed this overtime to continue to I guess at an exorbitant rate, which could have been avoided by adding officers. So again, maybe the Attorney General or some type of oversight has to be put on to be looking at this on an ongoing basis. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boulanger. I have Councillor Timms, then DeLeo, then Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm curious to something that you bring up from time to time, and it's the number of calls that the OPP get to deal with beachfront issues. And I wonder if there's an opportunity that we can weave this into this request to get some sort of statistics on that. So having that large amount of provincial land there that we're paying for the policing of might be impacting our community as well. But also I wonder, and this might be a question for the CFO, you know, things don't move quickly. Will we be able to get an answer on this by the time we approve the budget in December?
Thank you, through your worship. I'm not sure that we'll have an answer or a response, although the fact that we've received this email this quickly, I do think it will be actioned. But as far as right now, at this time, we know the amount already for draft 2 as to what it is that we're going to have to put into the budget if we don't have any additional information. Does that respond to your question?
Yes, thank you. As a follow-up, so we have no other action other than to question it and then put it into the budget while we wait for an answer. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. So there's a process for putting forward questions. We've already started that process through an email. The response back did not respond in the way that we were expecting, so we may, depending on what comes from this motion, we may action that further. But it is a long type of process. It's not something that you would get quickly, I don't think. So in the absence of a response from the province, based on the Solicitor General's most recent email, I would say it would have to be put into draft 2 of the budget, the known amount that we know of today.
Go ahead for a follow-up, Councillor Timms.
And I don't know whether this is something that would ever be considered by the province, but is there an opportunity to, while waiting for the decision, to have that spread out over multiple years, which could actually backfire, I'm sure, as well. But just a thought that doesn't require an answer.
Thank you, Councillor Timms. I'll turn it to CAO, Andrew McNeil.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple additional points. A further challenge we signed a contract in 2023 with the OPP that outlined a dispute resolution mechanism if you wanted to challenge your bill. The new service board, we're not sure what contract we are currently operating under and what the dispute resolution mechanism is, because our understanding is that contract is no longer valid, but we don't have anything new that shows us exactly how we challenge this. So we have adhered to the contract that we signed, and we've implemented the clauses that shows how you're supposed to challenge a bill. But again, we don't know if that's still the proper process because they've nullified all of these contracts with their new model. My sense is the OPP is hearing this loud and clear from 329 municipalities that are subject to OPP services. They've moved pretty quickly, and they've called a meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30. They're going to do a Teams meeting with all these municipalities. So they're hearing loud and clear. I don't know how quickly this will resolve itself, but the fact that the Solicitor General is releasing a statement this morning tells me that things are ramping up. So hopefully that will translate to quick action that we won't have to pass along to the taxpayers of Wasaga Beach.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll pass it to Councillor DeLeo, please.
Thank you, through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. First off, Mr. Mayor, thank you for bringing that motion forward. Greatly appreciate it. I'm just going to vent here a little bit. I'm just really disappointed that the provincial government would impose this 25% increase, especially on small communities like us and our surrounding communities. We're struggling as it is, and for them to do that, and the fact that they never consulted with the municipalities, it's not the democratic way of the Canadian way. So I'm really disappointed with that, but I'm glad to hear what you just said, that they are going to get together and they are listening. So I'm hoping, they'll drop it back down to the 5%. If not, we're going to have a big struggle on our hands, and I hope the provincial government is listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeLeo. Over to Mayor Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to point out, because I'm sure there will be some folks out there that say, well, when you have all these car rallies and you block roads and you do these types of things, there's a cost to that. But I think it's very important to be clear to the citizens of Wasaga Beach that, during our incident in 2023 with the car rally, we were clearly told by the OPP that they did not have the officers to come and help us, so we wouldn't be incurring that overtime, obviously. And it's why we hired private companies, security companies, to help us with that. I stand behind that decision. I think it was the right decision. I think we've been successful. We didn't see any car rallies this year. Hopefully that will continue. But to be very clear, let's not point a finger, please, and say this is because of the car rally. This has absolutely nothing to do with that. Listen, in Wasaga Beach, on an annual basis, I'm sure we see some overtime from officers because of how busy it is. But within our contract that we signed, it's pretty clear that it's their job to provide the services as required. And so therefore, if more officers are required because more people are here, it should be covered in the contract, is my understanding. So we shouldn't have incurred any overtime from that either. So I just wanted to be clear on that, and also point out that, the Ontario Provincial Police is an amazing organization. But I think another part of the issue, quite frankly, is around the size of their detachments. Huronia West is a prime example of this. Huronia West detachment goes from basically the southeast side of Tiny Township to the boundaries of Springwater, to all the way out as far as Duntruan, and then covers all of Clearview, Wasaga Beach, and Springwater Township. For an officer to get from one end of this coverage area to the other with lights and sirens at a safe rate is probably 30 to 40 minutes. And I can tell you absolutely that there are times within Huronia West Detachment that we have been down to as low as 2 officers on a shift on the road. And so I just think of this. A domestic dispute is called in, and I got this from an officer from a few years ago. And it's in the far side out by Duntruan. And domestic disputes need 2 officers to respond. Both officers respond. They're in separate vehicles. One officer has already arrived on site. The other officer is about 2/3 of the way there. And it so happens another domestic dispute comes in, and the dispatcher can hear the lady on the phone being pummeled by her husband. And now the officers get this call, and the officers need to make this decision. Do I turn around and rush back and save that lady's life, or do I leave my partner alone at the most dangerous call you can have as a police officer, as a domestic dispute? Officers shouldn't have to make those decisions. You have enough tough decisions to make on the road. So I look at this. I look at this 25% increase. I look at the amount of overtime, and this comes back to better planning. They need to do a massive blitz on hiring new officers and getting them trained and getting them on the road, not pillaging other smaller police forces, because we hear and see that all the time as well, which leaves those police forces now to try and find and train at a very expensive cost new officers. So, it's a dire strait here, in my opinion. And although it's a great organization, I couldn't be more proud to be the mayor of a community that has the Ontario Provincial Police who look after us. Because, again, the men and the women, the boots on the ground, do a phenomenal job with what they have. So those are my comments. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Blanchet?
Yes, thank you. Just to the CAO's comments, and I have to believe that the province is pretty alarmed with this as well. When you consider they've frozen impact now for 4 or 5 years, they've frozen NVCA fees, they've done a lot of things because they understand that post-pandemic that there's a lot of financial challenges out there within our community. So, you know, with all those things in consideration, I have to believe that there's some people in the provincial government that are quite surprised by the size of this bill. So, anyhow, let's be hopeful.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchet. Are there any other comments? Just a small one from from myself. I agree with you, Your Worship, in regards to better planning, but I think this also reinforces the solvethecrisis.ca campaign. Because you think about officers and how much of their time is going towards supporting individuals with mental health, breaking up encampments, dealing with the social and violent issues that happen within encampments. So I'd be curious in that call, you know, whether or not that subject comes up, and to sort of attach the two pieces, because if those municipalities or the OPP divisions that are serving those municipalities were asked what's the percentage that is dealing with these social issues, I think we'd be shocked at the percentage of their time. So that would be my only addition with that. If there's no further, sorry, go ahead, Your Worship.
My apologies, Madam Chair, and thank you. I guess the other thing I neglected to mention that I think is very important for the folks at Wasaga Beach to understand, and that is currently when the officers in Huronia West respond, they have several categories in which they apply a call to. And the one category that I have talked about now for several years and continue to talk about that has never been implemented is a category in Wasaga Beach specifically that originates that call from the provincial park. So when I look at our summertime here, 25% of our landmass being provincial park, 16 kilometers of our beach, majority of that is provincial park. We all know, and officers will tell you, that many of their calls that they receive originate within the provincial park. Now, when the officer arrives, they're on municipal streets and people may come to them, and so now they're dealing with that individual on a municipal property. But the call originates from the provincial park. They're here enjoying the beach or a park or the Nordic Center. And there absolutely needs to be a category where the officer can enter that this is a provincial park. Place of origin where this call or this complaint or this problem started. And the province should be paying for those calls, not the citizens of Wasaga Beach. Those are on provincial land, and provincially they should be covered by the province. I would guess that that's probably 30 to 40% of our calls on an annual basis, and if we looked at 2 months of the summer, it's probably a good majority of calls. I don't know that for a fact, but I can tell you that the OPP is much busier in the summer, and people are coming to Wasaga Beach, to the provincial park, that we need to talk with and deal with this issue and make sure that we get this implemented, because it has been costing the taxpayers of Wasaga Beach since the provincial park was created, and since the new policing model was created, I should say, with respect to calls for service, and we need to have that dealt with. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Your Worship. If there's no further comments, I'll look to the clerk to call the vote, please. Yes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You can call the question. We have a mover and seconder recorded.
Okay, great. Can I ask then all those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries unanimously. I'll hand the chair now back to the mayor. Thank you.